is Phil Koehler, and I'm an emeritus professor at the University of Florida. And before I retired, I was a part of the development of the INZECTO mosquito trap. So I wanted to tell you today a little bit about the INZECTO and the future of mosquito control in your business and in the United States. And of course, the INZECTO trap is a next generation kind of mosquito control device that's been developed by the #1 entomology department in the world, which is located here at the University of Florida in Gainesville. Some of the things that I'm going to go through in this presentation are, first of all, to talk a little bit about industry growth and how mosquito control services are growing year after year. Second, I wanted to cover some of the challenges that you have because of the limitations of the traditional mosquito management solutions and why mosquitoes are winning again from the standpoint of being much more prevalent than they used to be. And then lastly, I wanted to go through integrated solutions that would include the INZECTO traps as well as other vector control measures. So mosquito revenues are growing year after year. As a matter of fact, the growth rate is something like 20 to 22% per year. And that means that there's been a tremendous increase in the dollar value of mosquito services by the pest management industry. Back before 2016 here in Florida, we mostly did mosquito control with mosquito management programs that were located in each county. Once we had Zika come into the state, then pest control companies began to offer services, and since then, those services and the value of those services have grown tremendously, and customers wanting those services personalized for their own residences and locations have grown over the years. So it's a big dollar value that is growing tremendously. And I guess you wonder, why would mosquito revenues be growing? Well, first of all, your customers have fears of mosquito-borne disease. So for instance, diseases like West Nile virus are found in many of the states in the United States. Zika, which was prevalent in 2016 and 2017, has kind of disappeared. We have dengue usually in the southern part of Florida and the southern part of Texas every year, transmitted by mosquitoes. And also this past year, we had malaria pop up in the United States as locally transmitted malaria. Usually every year we have about 2,000 cases of malaria in the US, mostly travelers coming back from other parts of the world where they have gotten infected with malaria. This year, however, because of the mosquito problems, there was locally transmitted malaria in the United States, in Florida, in Texas, and believe it or not, in Maryland also. So we had 3 states where malaria was transmitted locally by mosquitoes. We can look at some of the reasons why we have many more mosquitoes than in the past. We have climate change, which means that we have longer mosquito breeding seasons. We have an introduction of non-native mosquito species. And I remember when I started in Florida, we had 67 mosquito species, 1 for each one of our counties. And now we have documented over 85 different species of mosquitoes. So we've had an increase of almost 20 species of mosquitoes that have been brought in from other parts of the world. There's also insecticide resistance, and it's becoming much more difficult to control mosquitoes with standard practices that we use routinely in pest control. And we also have restrictions on pesticide use. So there are some states where it's almost impossible to do mosquito control because the state has limited the use of insecticides to areas that they won't do much for mosquito management. So if you take a look at the different tools that you have available in your toolbox for mosquito management, you first of all have ULV services. These are usually sprayers that are mounted in the back of pickup trucks or maybe onto planes to be able to spray large areas of land quickly. So the trucks are going to be running up and down the roads, putting out a fog that kills mosquitoes while it's airborne. So this is a short-term type of protection where it only kills flying adults. It doesn't get to areas where mosquitoes rest very well. So it's going to knock flying mosquitoes out of the air. The ULV stands for ultra low volume, which means that concentrated insecticide is diluted in air to make small droplets that then just remain active as long as they're airborne. So they have to be applied at sunset. Otherwise, the spray goes directly up into the air and doesn't stay down where the mosquitoes are flying. And of course, if you're applying this at sunset or after dark, it's not ideal for daytime biting mosquitoes, which are the prime mosquitoes that your customers complain about because they're active and biting during daytime hours when they're out and active as well. And of course, none of the space sprays, the ULV sprays, are something that will kill mosquito larvae because they aren't designed to penetrate into the water to kill mosquito larvae. Then one of the prime ways that pest control services apply mosquito treatments is with barrier treatments. These are often applied with a backpack mist blower to treat vegetation. These have larger spray particles than those in ULV, and they're going to provide about 3 weeks of protection when they're applied to vegetation. These mainly kill resting adults, so you want to apply these treatments where adult mosquitoes rest. However, these sprays will degrade in sunlight, and also they can wash off of leaves because it's a barrier treatment that's applied to vegetation, and any of the rainwater or irrigation water can wash these away, and so you don't get an infinite amount of time for these things to work. Usually we say about 3 weeks of protection. Also, the barrier treatments can't be applied to flowering plants because of pollinators, that you don't want to be killing pollinators. And also, most of the labels for the mosquito products that are applied with barrier treatments can't be applied close to water. So they usually say that you can't apply them within 25 to 50 feet of water sources. And of course, again, you're applying this to vegetation or sides of houses, so no larval control is there for prevention of new adult populations. There are larvicides that are available, and those are going to provide about 3 weeks of control, maybe even less depending on the way that water is handled. These are usually applied by homeowners, and the homeowners aren't really trained to identify the larval breeding areas, so they don't do this very well. Some pest control companies will apply the BTI dunks or granules to small bodies of water and get some protection for their customers. Then we have ovitraps, which is what the INZECTO mosquito trap is. It's going to last about 3 months, which means that it should be replaced every 90 days. And it's going to provide a reduction in adult populations, usually in about 7 to 10 days. And we've seen that reduction go on for 3 months after one is put out, and then it has to be replaced. So basically, your toolbox makes you feel like you're a fish swimming upstream in water, and it's very difficult to get ahead. But actually, with the tools that you have, you can integrate them and get them to work very well. So basically, an integrated program is going to have all of these components in it. So it would start out with customer education. And one of the first things that you want to do with your customers is set their expectations on what you're going to provide and what you're not going to be able to do. So for instance, you can't tell them that you're going to be able to control disease. You're out there to control mosquitoes, and you need to make that perfectly clear to them. Then you follow up your customer education with an inspection, and almost any property that's out there should be inspected for mosquito larvae. If you find larvae in a place that you want to get under contract, then you can show it to the customer and say, you're breeding mosquitoes on your own land, you need our service. Then you have a choice of treatments that are the INZECTO traps, residual adulticides, space spray adulticides, and larvicides. I'll talk a little bit about the INZECTO traps in that they can be integrated into your total program. And of course, then you follow up with monitoring to make sure that what you're doing is successful, which then turns into quality control to make sure that everything is working well together. So there's a lot of science behind the INZECTO trap, and that's something that we did here at the University of Florida and has been followed up in many other locations around the world. The research actually has been award-winning, and I have to disclose to you, I am one of the inventors of the INZECTO trap, along with Roberto Pereira in our department. Also, we cooperated with material science and engineering to be able to come up with a product that would last under very difficult situations. And basically, it's an interesting device because when we first debuted the thing, there were people that were telling us, people have been wanting to do this for years. They haven't been able to do it. You're telling us that you did it. Well, we did do it. And the INZECTO trap won several awards, which one was the Cade Museum prize, which goes to inventions in Florida that are the most novel and helpful to the people of the state of Florida. And of course, Cade was the inventor of Gatorade, so that was an important prize. Also, it was recognized by the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities in the event held at the House of Representatives up in Washington for this INZECTO trap being a novel and helpful device. And then the company itself has won several awards, one from the World Bank Group and another one from the Financial Times, as far as the having very effective business practices. Now I got to tell you a little bit about the INZECTO mosquito trap, which is a dual action technology because it has both an adulticide, permethrin, which is the most widely used adulticide in the world, and it also uses a larvicide, which is pyriproxyfen, which also is used widely throughout the world to control mosquito larvae. What's unique about this is that it's embedded in a polymer that is coated on the inside of the trap, and that coating is only on the inside of the trap. So when you touch the trap, you're not touching any insecticide. It's all located on the inside of the trap. Just to show you, down here on the lower right is a trap that's been cut open. And the white stuff on there is a texturizing agent that we put on the surface so that mosquitoes like to land on it. Also, it works to wick the chemical out of the polymer for faster release. And the insecticide coating is all on the inside of the trap. There's an organic, almost tea-bagged looking structure that has organic matter that dissolves in the water and then provides a food source for larvae, and it also provides an odor to the trap and the water so that mosquitoes want to go in and lay their eggs there. So that's all. That is not an insecticide satchel. This is where the insecticide is, all on the inside, coating on the trap. So if we take a look at the different attributes on why it works, first of all, there's a 90-day continuous release of small quantities of insecticide, both into the water and onto the surface of the trap where mosquitoes would land. It's a microdose of this embedded larvicide and adulticide that's released. As a matter of fact, the larvicide in the water is at such low concentrations that in other parts of the world, that water would be drinkable. It's a product that could be used to control mosquitoes, and people could actually drink the water with the larvicide. There's a sachet of that leaf infusion, which gives the odor of stagnant water to mosquitoes, so they want to come in and lay their eggs on the sides of the container or on the water of the container, and that's also a source of food for the larvae. Mosquitoes try to choose places where their larvae will be able to survive well, and then the container itself is designed to attract and control mosquitoes and both container breeding mosquitoes and resting mosquitoes when they get into the interior surface. The red and black color are the two colors that mosquitoes prefer the most, and there are many studies in the literature that show that red and black are things that bring in mosquitoes from a distance, and then once they get in closer, they can smell the water on the inside and they want to go in. They stay in there to rest because there are ridges on the side of the container that reduces airflow, creates very high humidity, and reduces water evaporation rates. So you don't have to refill it as often, but the main thing is for the mosquitoes, they like to rest in areas where there's high humidity, and this trap provides that. There's a texturized interior surface that is something that mosquitoes prefer to land on. I had one student who actually did different textures of surfaces to see where mosquitoes would land and lay their eggs the most. So our interior surface on the inside of the trap simulates that entirely. From your standpoint, as far as putting it out, it's very easy to deploy. All you have to do is just add water, and it's very easy to maintain because the water does not evaporate out of there because of the shape of the container, and also the ridges on the side of the container prevent a lot of airflow and desiccation of the water from inside. The trap itself is shelf stable in all temperatures that it would encounter on your service vehicle, and it's effective for up to 1,000 rinses. There was one day I had one of our students who needed a project. I said, can you tell me how many times we can rinse this thing and still have it kill mosquitoes? We got up to 1,000 rinses and finally decided to quit. So we don't really know how many rinses it will take to, so if you say, well, I'm going to pour this out and it'll be, or it got knocked over and the water came out, guess what? All you have to do is set it back up, put some more water back in, and it will kill more mosquitoes. The pesticides are contained inside, so you don't have any human or animal contact. People that are afraid for their pets or their children really don't have anything to worry from this because on the outside of the trap, there is no insecticide. You have an option to hang this or to secure it to a tree or to a fence post with a zip tie, and that would keep it from getting turned over, either of those techniques. And there's a loop right here above the drain overflow spout that allows you to hang it from a tree. There's a water overflow spout, so you can't overfill this. If you put in too much water, it's just going to run out on the ground. So it self-maintains water levels. So if it's put down where there's irrigation, it'll overfill maybe. And if it didn't have that spout there, it would overfill. But because of the spout, it can't overfill. If there's a lot of rain, it won't overfill either. And this is a device that's eco-friendly for humans, pets, birds, fish, and even aquatic life because it has everything self-contained within it. So let me show you how mosquitoes react to this. This is an animation. So the secret is in the revolutionary patented coating on the inside where mosquitoes would rest in order to lay eggs. And the mosquito larvae then die as a result of either the adulticide in the water or the larvicide in the water. You will see live larvae in the water because the larvicide is a growth regulator that kills them as they're ready to emerge as adults. So live larvae is a sign of success that the trap is actually working. Now, as far as trap placement, it's somewhat like putting out baits for German cockroaches. You have to put them out at the correct place in order for them to work well. So usually in a shaded area around the perimeter of a house or under some shrubbery outside is a good place to put it. You shouldn't put it out in full sun or out in the open where there's a lot of wind, where there would be a lot of wind. A good place would be where it's shielded from wind and shielded from sun. We usually recommend that like a 1/4 acre lot would require 2 traps. If you go to a 1/2 acre, that would be 4, or 1 acre lot, it would be 8 traps that would be placed. Some people have said, well, if the thing's so attractive to mosquitoes, I shouldn't put it on a patio, for instance. But guess what? That's a place where mosquitoes are going to go. So you would want to put one there, because if the mosquitoes are going to the trap, they're not going to the people. And also you can place it around swimming pool decks and those sorts of places as well. So pest management professionals have really told us that they really like the use of the trap. For their customers, it's a proof of service. So basically, if you go out there with a barrier treatment and spray the foliage when the customers aren't home, they're not going to know whether you did any service for their mosquitoes or not. The mosquito trap is a way that is a proof of service. You can even put a sticker on it to say this was something that that our company put out here for you to protect you from mosquitoes. There are no allergens in it. There's nothing that's going to set off an allergic reaction in anyone. There's no smell. The smell is mostly associated with the stagnant water that attracts the mosquitoes, and people don't notice it. And it's an environmentally friendly solution because you're not spraying a lot of insecticides around in the environment and affecting non-targets. From the standpoint of technicians, there's quick deployment. You have ease of use. There's really low maintenance. There's very little you have to do. If you're out there for another service, you can check to make sure that it has water, but that's about the only maintenance that's required. There's only minimal PPE required. There's nothing really that you have to do to protect yourself from the outside of that trap. As far as placing the INZECTO traps year-round for prevention, there are many times you're selling a service for a year-round protection from mosquitoes. You'd want to be able to put out the traps in early spring for mosquito prevention, and that's going to protect pollinators when plants are in bloom, when you can't really go out there and do barrier treatments, for instance, with the backpack mist blowers. And you can also treat near edible plants. So if your customers have a vegetable garden, for instance, or fruit trees, you can place it around the fruit trees and vegetable gardens with no problem of contamination of those plants. That would be early season protection. During prime mosquito time, which is usually in the summer and early fall, you can place it near water that produces mosquitoes, and you can. It will also provide additional protection after barrier treatments have been impacted by rain or sun. So the barrier treatments, when they're affected by rain or sun, don't work any longer, and it may be costly for you to go back out there and retreat. This will provide a bridge between your residual treatments if you're doing it that way. So then the fall and winter applications. So we would say there would be 3 applications: early spring, prime mosquito season in the summer, then fall and winter to prevent the next season's population. You think about how are mosquitoes overwintering? They're going to lay eggs, and if they lay it in this device, they aren't going to overwinter as well, and you'll have fewer mosquitoes that you have to deal with next year for your customers. So placing the insecticides versus spraying is a growing concept. That INZECTO traps can be safely utilized in many places where you can't really spray insecticides because they're pollinator friendly and they're okay next to water resources. So you think about these flowers, you'd have trouble treating there with barrier treatments. Around this water, you can't treat within 25 to 50 feet depending on the label. And mosquito traps are 100% recyclable. When after 3 months, they can be taken to a recycle bin and just thrown in a recycle bin. They're HDPE, which means that it's the most common recycled material type of plastic that's used for recycling. Now we have several ways that you can integrate INZECTO into your business, and I'll go through those very briefly. You have either 4 integrated and standalone mosquito programs to choose from, and these will increase profits by using INZECTO. And these are annual programs with 3 deployments of the traps, in 1 deployment in March, 1 in June, and 1 in September. And of course, that will vary depending on what part of the United States you're in. But I like to talk about March, June, and September as reasonable times to put them out. So March would be for early season mosquito prevention that protects pollinators, plants in bloom, and you can treat near edible plants in like vegetable gardens and fruit trees. June would be prime mosquito season, which you would place it near water sources that are going to produce mosquitoes, and it's going to protect even when the residuals have been impacted by rain or sun. And then September, which is the fall to winter, to prevent the next year's population. So you can encourage the control of overwintering mosquito populations that would be overwintering usually in the egg stage to prevent them from emerging next year. So to go into a little more detail about the INZECTO Premium Program, that has 9 barrier treatments that would be applied basically monthly to provide protection through the mosquito breeding times of the year, and which would be in most parts of the U.S. From March through November or somewhere along those lines. So the trap coverage would be 2 traps per quarter acre. You'd apply those 3 times per year. You'd also be applying 9 barrier treatments, and that would require, for a quarter acre lot, that would require 6 traps, which would be a half a case of traps used in those 3 deployments. So basically, I did a computer simulation model where I took some actual data that had been published in Journal of Medical Entomology on mosquito populations through a year that were sampled with the type of trap that is used by most mosquito districts. And I have here a mosquito index from 0 to 10, 10 being the worst, 0 being completely free of mosquitoes. Up until March, the mosquitoes weren't there. And then you can see that there were population peaks through the year. And if you remember, I told you that summer was the worst, and that's basically the case here. And if you put out those 9 mosquito treatments where those arrows are down below, you'll see that after about 3 weeks, there's a resurgence of mosquitoes that we can maintain lower levels with. In the green, we have INZECTO Premium, where the traps are put out 3 times in the year, once in March, once in June, and once in September. And the residual only is the blue line. And of course, the red is no control. So basically, with the INZECTO Continuous, you're able to provide 90%, according to this computer simulation, we were able to provide 95% control of the mosquitoes throughout the entire year. The mosquitoes were not completely eliminated at all times, but they were kept at a very low level with the green line there on the bottom of the graph. So that's 9 residual applications and 3 INZECTO applications. Now, another program that we have is the INZECTO Essential Program, which puts out 4 barrier treatments. So with that, you put out the INZECTO traps 3 times per year, but maybe you're going to do 4 treatments to keep it so it's more cost effective for your customers. So you're not going out there monthly, you're just doing 4 applications a year. That would still total 6 traps, which is a half a case for a quarter acre lot. With the INZECTO Essential, again, this is the computer simulation model. You can see that the same data is here. However, the times when the barrier treatments are not working are much more accelerated because you don't have as many treatments going on through the year to take care of these outbreaks of mosquitoes, particularly in summer and early fall. However, with the INZECTO uh, uh, program, you have an 85% reduction of mosquitoes um, compared to the no control. So basically, this is a very good way to be able to control mosquitoes, to take care of those outbreaks. You notice how big this outbreak is here in September, when a lot of the diseases usually appear in mosquito populations. The INZECTO trap keeps the mosquito index really low throughout the entire year. A third program would be INZECTO Green, which is um, which is 3 trap placements per year, and would still total three traps. Okay, so the continuous program doesn't rely on any space spraying at all, and you can see this is the same data, and the INZECTO trap by itself was providing 72% reduction according to the computer simulation, that we were keeping the mosquito index relatively low. And of course, the fewer barrier treatments you use, the more mosquitoes are going to be encountered. So there are 0 residual applications in this particular model, but still 72% reduction. And then we have the INZECTO add-on program, which is the spraying is prohibited, maybe because of the municipality where your customers live. They don't want to have spraying, or maybe it's because they're flowering plants like azaleas, roses, sunflowers, hydrangea. There are certain times of the year when these are out and blooming and pollinators are there, and you're not allowed to spray. Maybe there are water resources like ponds or lakes or marinas, and sometimes there are food plants like in vegetable gardens, or even in some of the potted vegetable plants that people grow on their patios, and even fruit trees like apples, oranges, peaches, and grapes. So you would put out the INZECTO traps alone in those places where spraying is prohibited. So basically, we have the 4 programs, which is the INZECTO Premium, which will give you fewer callbacks, even with monthly barrier treatments. It will provide continuous control through the entire year. You have the INZECTO Essential Program, which has about 40% better control with increased customer retention, even if you're only putting out like 4 barrier sprays per year. And we have the INZECTO Green, which is an eco-friendly, effective solution to protect pollinators and non-target insects. And then the INZECTO add-on, which just provides control where spraying is prohibited. So we have those great programs which are available for you to use. And of course, the INZECTO major benefits are mostly operational, where you have recurring revenue because you have an annual program. You have an easy add-on. You have marketing, which is a leave behind marketing, which shows customers that you've been there. You have 3 to 4 deployments, probably 3 deployments annually, and that's going to save you money. There's easy installation for the technicians, which is 1 part, 1 step. You don't have to put some Lego thing together in order to get the trap to work. There are fewer man hours per month to be able to service these. There's very low maintenance. Very little training is needed to implement this, and there's minimal water required. From the standpoint of technician safety, you have no contact with insecticides yourself. Some of the other products on the market can cause allergic reactions. There are no allergens in this particular product. There are minimal PPE requirements, and no heavy equipment is needed to implement this. It takes less than a quart of water to activate the trap. And of course, in the end, you have satisfied customers because it's effectively reducing mosquito populations above what you would get with even the barrier treatments. And you have reduction in callbacks and increased referrals because happy customers are going to tell their neighbors about it, and you get more business as a result of that. So this is a simple addition to your existing services. Uh, you can easily fit two cases on your service vehicle, which would service 6 homes. You can upsell and install on the spot. So if you're going to go out there and sell, get your treatments going right away. Don't wait for someone to come along with a backpack mister to start the treatments. And no new equipment is needed. You just use your existing water tank in order to fill the traps. Just to tell you about one place that I went to, that they were extraordinarily happy with the INZECTO traps. It was a major Florida theme park that had a lot of animals. And because of the animals, they were not allowed to spray. They even had wild ibises nesting in their trees. And there was no way they were going to be able to do any mosquito spraying at that theme park. And what the manager of the park told me was that they were getting complaints about mosquitoes. His phone was ringing off the hook every day with customers standing in line waiting to go on the rides and getting bitten by mosquitoes. And they were getting these complaints about their existing mosquito control program, which they were very limited in what they could do because they had water resources, they had food resources for the animals, they had customers there most times of the day. They installed INZECTO traps, and after the installation of those traps, they got 0 complaints. And he said they're going to expand the use of the traps this next season so that they can get even better coverage. And I found that he was quite innovative in the way that he put these up. They were put on the backs of trees so that their customers couldn't see that they were even there. And actually, the way that they weren't using zip ties, he would take a long screw with a power drill and put it right through above the drain hole on the trap, right into the tree, or right into some wood that they had there in order to attach the trap so it wouldn't get knocked over and wouldn't be seen. And then they'd go out there monthly, check the traps to make sure that they had water. And he said, my company has been using INZECTO traps here in Florida. They've given us the best results of any type of mosquito control we've ever tried. We're very excited to keep using INZECTO traps in the future, which is going to set us apart from our